y'all. It's time for an extra special episode of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. I know all episodes are special, but this one is extra special. The guys interview Isaac Childres. You will hear about all the influences and inspirations for Gloomhaven and get a special in-depth look at the new version of Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. This is episode 201. I'm Marty.
I'm Tony.
And we are thrilled to have the designer of Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, Isaac Childres. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So I've got to ask, so I can set the tone of this interview.
Okay.
When you come to the Gen Con Strike Tournament, Isaac, who do you pull for? Are you pulling for the gladiators or the dice in the bowl?
Oh, I'm dice in the bowl all the way. I'm sorry. Oh, he's putting his head in his hands. He's really sad.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to, I didn't ask, Isaac, should we call you Dr. Childres?
Oh, no, please don't.
I've been digging into your past, Isaac, trying to, and I thought that you had a doctorate, and you, sir, have a doctorate in physics?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that is from what prestigious university?
Purdue University.
Boilermakers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think like the title of doctor should probably just be reserved for medical doctors. Also, it's just like, I don't know, it feels pretentious somehow. It's like, you have to call me a doctor. I'm Dr. Childres.
That's fair.
Well, you are a doctor of making very successful games.
Sure, I'll take that.
A doctor of Kickstarters, obviously, with the success of Frosthaven that we just saw. So yeah, I cannot wait to talk to you about this, Isaac. And for those who may not realize it, Isaac is the designer of the very popular game Gloomhaven. So we're going to be talking to Isaac tonight about his inspiration for the game, leading up to a game that's just now getting ready to come out called Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. What exactly is it? You know, how did it come to be, and how is this different than the base game? But before we get there, Isaac, let's go back. Let's go back in time. I want to hear a little bit about the history of you in gaming, whether it be video games or board games. I mean, all of us had this little journey where we get to where we enjoy board games. What was your journey?
So, but before Isaac goes there, give him a chance to.
I set that question up perfectly, and you have to.
I am, because I'm going to give him time to think about it and form his things. I'm going to tell you a little story about Mr. Childres.
Okay.
So about two and a half years ago, when the second run of the Kickstarter Gloomhaven started, I backed it. Okay. Now, was it 2.5 years ago, Isaac, that closed? I can't. Time is flying.
It was 3 years ago. Over 3 years ago now.
And during that time, Marty, I was in the process of moving. Do you remember this? You remember this whole turmoil in our lives where I left you behind? I moved only 30 more minutes away, but now it threw off all of our gaming and all that good stuff. But in that process, I had this amazing Kickstarter going to be delivered, but it was in limbo. I wasn't sure which address. I didn't have an address. So I put my old address thinking it was going to come, and this is not anything that would be delivered before I moved. And I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? When I get moved, I hope this thing gets here. Time comes, I move. Gloomhaven had not arrived. So I send an email saying, my address has changed. Is there any way to do it? You know, thinking that someone would respond to me. Who responded to me, Marty?
I don't know. I tuned out about 30 seconds ago.
Well, take a guess. Who responded?
Isaac did.
Isaac did. I was floored. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, he's a professional. I hear he's a doctor and everything.
He's a professional. It was amazing. The customer service was there. He sent me a nice note back and says, we'll get this handled. Things, he took care of it. And sure enough, my Gloomhaven has arrived, still mint and sealed in the box.
You didn't have to say that part of the story.
He knows it. He knows it is because, and it's not because we don't want, it's just that because my move created such a time-space relationship, which he could explain to us through physics, okay? You and I the legacy game I need to get it set up. I need to go over there. I need to go over to your house and set it up so when I show up, we can play it over time.
Actually, you and Donna may enjoy it. Donna is Tony's wife, Isaac. Y'all may enjoy it.
I know. I just got to get her to the table. And I think after this pandemic, I have a better chance of that happening.
Now, can I go back to my question, Tony?
Do you remember it? Has too much time passed? Have you forgotten what it was?
I'm surprised Isaac's still hanging on the call. Everybody came to listen to him talk, and so far it's just been you and I.
So the question was about my beginnings
History
as a
of
gamer.
gaming, yes.
History of gaming, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I played, what we call crappy games these days, Monopoly and the things where you rolled dice and moved your guy around the board in one way or the other. But, I enjoyed those. But I would say I was much more like a video gamer in my youth going up through college pretty much. So lots of RPGs. I also got into like D&D. So I guess that's some like tabletop gaming that I did in high school.
Tony and I are big video gamers.
Okay.
So tell us, what systems did you play? What games?
Oh, yeah,
did you play?
sure.
I'll talk video games anytime.
So I started off with a Nintendo. I'm 38, so that ages me. The original NES system or NES. So big Zelda fan. Oh gosh, what else did I play? Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior 3 was like the first, I don't know, probably like major RPG I played. Blaster Master. Oh, I love Blaster Master. Anyway, so maybe I'm going into too much detail now, but then got into the Genesis.
I love hearing this stuff. The reason I was going to say is because Gloomhaven very much has a video game feel to me. So I was wondering, actually, some of the history of some of the video games you played and how it kind of rolled over into your design of a dungeon crawler board game.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously it's heavily based on RPGs and also like action RPGs like Diablo, which came later. So there was the Sega Genesis, big Phantasy Star fan for that RPG world, which I think also informed Gloomhaven in some ways in terms of like theme and stuff like that. That's like more sci-fi, but there's this kind of like this fantasy element running through it. It's kind of like this world that like used to be more advanced, but it's kind of like this cataclysm happened, and like now it's gone back a bit in terms of like technology progress, and I think that's had some influence on the theme of Gloomhaven as well. Yeah, and then I was one of the very, very few people who got on the Sega Saturn bandwagon.
Yeah, you were.
So that was my high school days. There were a lot of good games for the Sega Saturn, though. Panzer Dragoon Saga. Again, very similar themes of sort of like this ancient civilization that has been like destroyed, and now like these people are kind of living these more like fantasy tropes like on top of this ancient civilization. Anyway, and then at some point in there, probably before the Sega Saturn, I started getting into like computer games. So like The Summoning was like an early RPG that I played, and then Diablo and stuff like that sort of came while I was in high school. Got really, really into Diablo 2 my senior year of high school, and then I went off to college, where I experienced a lot more video games because I then had access to like a PlayStation, which had like a lot more games than my Sega Saturn did. So that's when I got into like Final Fantasy, stuff like that. Yeah, and then it just kind of exploded from there. Then I started getting into board games. Actually, I think like in high school, I started playing Axis and Allies with my friends. I had a friend who like told me like how awesome of a game this was. Like he'd played it once with like his dad or something. And then I was just like randomly at a garage sale and like found a copy of it. Found a copy of that. It was like I found like all the Milton Bradley like Game Master series. There was like that and Conquest of the Empire and Broadsides and Boarding Parties. So I got like all three of those, and those were all like really interesting games. I mean, Conquest of the Empire is like pretty much standard war game that had some like weird balance issues. And then of course Axis and Allies is pretty famous, but like Broadsides and Boarding Parties, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but like it comes with like these two gigantic like plastic ships that you like put guys on, and you like have like these naval battles against each other, and it's like it's really interesting. And then at some point, probably like later in college, I experienced Settlers of Catan, which was probably like my first like more Euro game. And I don't know, impress me too much. I mean, I've never been like a big Settlers of Catan fan. I've always found it like just like too random and frustrating. You know, it's like you get like your city configurations like right in the right place, and then just, you know, the numbers never come up, and it's frustrating to me. But
oh yeah, especially when you're sitting on a 6 and an 8, and you know statistically those
Right.
should show up a lot, and they don't.
I should be winning, but I'm not winning. So then it wasn't until like my early years of grad school, I'd play Settlers of Catan on occasion, but then like one of my roommates discovered Board Game Geek. He's like, you know, check out this site. Like, I think like Puerto Rico was #1 at the time. He's like, this game must be really good. Like, we should try this. Like, we should buy it together and then play it. And so that's what I did. And then we just had like lots and lots of Puerto Rico nights, inviting people over to play Puerto Rico with us. And that's the first game that I really got obsessed with, just because it was so different from anything I had experienced, you know, where there's like, I mean, there's no randomness in that game other than the plantation tiles come up, and it's but it's all just, you know, just make a plan, enact that plan, and that's all it is. That you win or lose based on your ability to plan out and anticipate what other people are doing. And so I found that really interesting.
Do you still play Puerto Rico? Just out of curiosity.
I have not played Puerto Rico in a long time. I still own a copy. I'm looking at it right now. It's kind of like buried underneath a lot of other games.
Puerto Rico is one of Tony and ours earliest games that we really enjoyed, and I still kick myself to this day for not getting the 5th anniversary edition? 10th. Was it 10th?
I think it was 10.
Anyway, the one that's
sounds,
going for $150 now. And I had a chance to get it and didn't. But anyway, we loved Puerto Rico also.
Yeah, and so then from that point, I was like, that was a great experience. Now I'm just like gonna go down this Board Game Geek list and just buy all the games. So, you know, I went down to like #2, which was like maybe Kalis or Power Grid or something, I forget. And so yeah, I just started buying all these Euro games, and then just tried to get my friends together to play them as much as possible. And so that went on for a while until it was always like kind of difficult to like, you know, arrange a game night. Like it maybe only happened like once a month or something. We had a very limited selection of games, right? It was basically just like the things that I had bought, and I had sort of gotten a couple other people into it, so they had maybe a couple games as well. But then it was probably 9 years ago, like I discovered 8 or 9 years ago, I discovered like a weekly game group that met at Purdue, in the Purdue Union, like every Wednesday. And those guys were like really like more into it and had like tons and tons of games. And so like every week I was playing like a new game, and that was really cool. And that is kind of what started like sparking my creativity, just playing like all these different games. And that's when I just started designing my own games as well.
Was it the fact that you were being exposed to a lot more that sparked it? Or was it something along the lines that when you were playing the older games prior to that, were you always like saying, you know, maybe this would work better? Not to say Puerto Rico has any flaws to it, but so I'm just trying to put the timeline together here.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure.
I'm done for the interview, Marty. There's number.
He got his one interesting question. He will now just sit back and take a nap the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I'm not really sure like why like the creativity started sparking. As weird as this may sound, like it may have been like, yeah, because I started playing like some bad games as well. Yeah, where you started thinking about like, oh yeah, this game like isn't great. Like this thing and this thing could be better. Where, you know, if you're playing like Puerto Rico, like maybe that doesn't come up as often. You're just kind of, you know, in awe of all the systems. So yeah, I don't know. And also maybe it was the specific games that I was playing, where I started like finding games that like really, really resonated with me. Like I remember specifically was Trajan, by Stefan Feld. And, you know, had the like really interesting like Mancala aspect to it, where you're not only dealing with all these different resources that you have to manage, but you've also got like this weird like spatial element to it as well, where you have to figure out like what beads are going to go in which things to like match up the colors, and get your Trajan bonuses, and that really resonated with me. So yeah, there's stuff like that. Like I think specific games and maybe like starting to think more critically about games is what did it.
Couple things through all that before I forget. So,
Sure.
Big Nintendo console fans, just to let you know, this year at Hallmark, one of the Hallmark ornaments is a Nintendo console. And so if you want to go get one of those, go get one, because I already got 4 on pre-order.
Nice. You're buying them all up.
You can get the Nintendo console, but they also have a Zelda cartridge as an ornament also, a gold one.
Nice.
Ooh. So I thought that was cool too. And that takes me to, do you have a Nintendo Switch?
Yeah. Yeah, I got one of those a few years ago to play Breath of the Wild, which was, Breath of the Wild is like easily like top 5 gaming experiences of all time.
Tony is just now about to wrap up, right, Tony?
That is, yep, I'm on the final one. I was a late adapter. So, but yes, I hope to finish Breath of the Wild. So we can blame when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out on your hiatus from doing an awesome board game, right? Because I know you'll jump on it just like me.
Yeah, there are lots of games that will ruin my productivity for a small period of time. But I still manage to get things done.
You're not a completionist, are you? Are you going to have to find all 900 seeds and that kind of stuff?
I didn't find all the Koroks. I got all the oh gosh, I can't even remember the other thing.
The shrines.
The shrines,
temples?
yeah. I was trying to think of like the resource that you got from the shrine. It was like a soul piece or something.
The spirit ore or orbs.
Yeah. Anyway, I found all those, but I didn't find like all the Koroks. I traversed the world and found like enough Koroks to like fully upgrade everything. And I was like, okay, I don't need to like, go over everything with magnifying glass. That would probably take another 100 hours.
No, I understand that. Now, it's no secret that if Marty and I had video games beyond what we did, which was a Commodore 128 in college.
Nice.
We may not have gotten our degrees, or if we had gotten into board games like you were talking about, that may have extended our period at NC State. So just kudos for being able to pull that off.
Well, designing board games definitely did extend my PhD at Purdue. It took me probably like 2 years longer than it should have, because those last 2 or 3 years were, I was like designing, my board game half the time and running the Kickstarter.
And we can all just say thank you for that. It's okay to extend it out. Thank you for getting that game developed or designed.
Well, you're welcome.
There you go. I think that's a good segue to, all right, so you had this desire to start designing games. Obviously, we know the success of Gloomhaven. So what sparked it, man? Where did you get the idea of building like this, get inspired to make a dungeon crawler game, this world, the world building you had to do? So how'd that all come into play?
I've always been a big fan of dungeon crawls. And I mean, that's partially because of the video gaming I grew up with, with Dragon Warrior and all that stuff. RPGs have always been my favorite genre. Just specifically like fantasy RPGs. The closest analogous to that in board gaming is dungeon crawls, where you get your fantasy characters and you run around smashing monsters and leveling up and all that stuff. I've played like Mice and Mystics and Descent Second Edition, and some others, and then obviously like D&D and stuff. But like it was hard to like reconcile that with my love of like Euro games as well. And my desire for like less randomness in games and more like just decision making and like success or failure based on your ability to plan and everything like that. And because you play games like Descent, and I don't want to like bash on it too hard, but it to me it just felt like a lot of just, I'm not making any real decisions. I'm just like, there's a monster, so I move towards it and I roll some dice to see if I do damage, and I just do that over and over until it dies. And also, like, that's how a lot of like D&D plays out as well, right? In those sessions of D&D where like the role playing might be like lighter, or you just like you're tired of this battle and you just want to get it over with, so it's just like, okay, you just like start not adding flavor to what you're doing and just like keep rolling dice until either you die or the monster dies. So I kind of wanted to like get away from that. Like I wanted to experience a dungeon crawl that catered to my own sensibilities of less randomness, more decision making. And so that's when I started designing Gloomhaven.
Sounds like it all kind of melded together. You wanted to have a dungeon crawler with less randomness, but you already liked fantasy. So I guess you jumped in and said, well, I'm just going to make a fantasy dungeon crawler. But you created this world out of nowhere, man. What was the inspiration for the name of the game? The locations, the monsters, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was right. Yeah, just I have a tendency towards fantasy, and Dungeons and Dragons again kind of influenced that a lot. Had experience, DMing Dungeons and Dragons campaigns where I created my own world and stuff like that, and so I had some experience doing that. Yeah, I don't know. It was like it's so much fun, and it's so interesting to just like sit down and create your own world. I don't know, it's like, you could just have like your typical like orcs and goblins and elves and dwarves and stuff, but like, I don't know, it's just much more fun to like think about things and come up with your own cool, interesting ideas. And so that's what I decided to do. And I mean, I can't tell you like specifically like where it all came from. Like, oh, like the Inox is like this thing and this thing. It was just like, I just like sat down one day and I started like writing this stuff out and coming up with, different races that would be just kind of interesting to see in the world, and sort of like what their place within that world is and what their beliefs are and, their social structures and things like that. And then just sort of like building the world around that and these different races. Gloomhaven was, this kind of like city on the edge of like the world, on the edge of this wilderness. Cause that's kind of like I don't know, it's pretty standard like fantasy trope where like you've got a city and then outside that city is just like all this dangerous stuff that you can go explore and fight and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I've decided to like center the game around is just have it be focused on the city and the surrounding area of the city. And there's like a larger human civilization off to the west, and this is kind of like this outpost out in this wild area. The name Gloomhaven, I don't know, I just kind of like latched onto the name Haven. Like I thought that would be a good like descriptive title for this type of city, right, that's out on the edge of the wilderness. Played around with, a lot of different things. I think at one time I was like calling it Soul Haven. It's just like stuff that like sounds cool and interesting. Mm-hmm. One thing I did want to make a point of doing was not give it some like weird like fantasy made up name, like Shrickelblog or something like that.
And thank you so much for people who have to say names of games all the time.
I felt like it would resonate more with people, like if they understood what it was. Gloomhaven is like a haven from the gloom that like lurks outside the city.
Did you create all your own narratives? You created the world, so when you started creating the scenarios for Gloomhaven, did you bring other people in to help write scenarios, or like, nope, just give me a notebook and I'll just start doing it on my own?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly done on my own. So if you look through the Gloomhaven scenario book, you'll see, I don't know the percentage, probably between like 20 to 30% of the scenarios are guest designed. Most of those guest designs are from Matthew Summers and Marcel Sfratetska. And so they contributed some of the narrative towards those individual scenarios. And Marcel had a couple like scenario arcs that he contributed to as well. And then, individual guest designers obviously like contributed to the scenarios they were doing. But yeah, like the whole, like the overarching campaign, was all designed, and I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But anyway, designed by me.
You're on the right show.
Can't think of a word. You're good. You're good.
Conceptualized. I think that's the word I was looking for.
There you go.
And I mean, I wouldn't call it like some groundbreaking story. It's like there's an evil, and you work towards uncovering what that evil is and destroying it. This is pretty like standard fantasy stuff, but and then with Frosthaven now we're trying to like step up that a bit and try to tell like a little more complex story, and I've brought in a professional writer to like help flesh things out as well. So yeah, hoping to step that up a little bit.
My question is, when you designed Gloomhaven and my box arrived, first off, I was like, holy cow. Did you anticipate starting out, and then suddenly when that thing finally came to production, you were like, man, this is incredible? Were you a proud papa?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm a proud papa. But yeah, like when I was in the process of designing it, and even like while I was running that first Kickstarter back in 2015, yeah, I didn't quite like realize the scope of what it would become, or like how successful it would become. I knew I had like a good idea, and I wanted to sort of see that to fruition, like the best way that I could. And so that ended up like adding a lot of content to the game, which made the box very big. And yeah, so like when we finally realized like, okay, this is how big the box has to be, this is all the stuff in it, it was a little intimidating. But yeah, I think it, in the end, it worked out well.
From conception to completion, how long did that take?
So Gloomhaven, I started working on it in earnest when I pretty much right after I graduated from the PhD program, which was in 2015, or end of 2014, start of 2015. And then that October is when I ran the Kickstarter campaign. And then I didn't deliver the games for another like year and a half after that. So it was about like over 2 years from conception to delivering the game.
Well, you must have had a lot of stuff in mind before you even hit off the Kickstarter, I guess, because you already had all the concepts and kind of gameplay design. You had to by then, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and once I had graduated from the program, this was like my full-time job. I didn't
Gotcha.
go out and get a job in physics at all. It was just like, I'm gonna like try this out for a year and see how it goes. And so yeah, I just went full steam on making this game. Yes, pretty much like right at the beginning of 2015.
I know your degree is physics. Your doctorate's in physics. What part of physics?
So I was in solid state physics. I worked with graphene, which is a sheet of carbon atoms, like one atom thick, and it has like very high electrical and thermal conductivity. And so like my thesis was on the effects of energetic irradiation on the conductivity properties of graphene. So I would like shoot gamma rays and electron beams and all sorts of fun stuff at the graphene, and then measure its electrical conductivity to see how it changed.
Marty, he is one experiment away from being a supervillain.
Yeah, no, a superhero.
Or superhero.
An Incredible Hulk was gamma rays. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, our gamma sources weren't that great. I don't think they ever yielded any good results. We had like very, very, very low emission.
But still, you're one step away, one mistake away.
Look, I'm not done with taking chances. I'm not going to make him angry. Just saying, all right?
Okay. Have to remember that.
Okay. All right, so Gloomhaven did Kickstarter 2015, very successful, did a second Kickstarter. But what we're here to talk about today is this thing called Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. And what exactly is Jaws of the Lion, and how does it differ from the base game, Gloomhaven? Is it an expansion? What's different about it?
Yeah, so Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is sort of, it was conceptualized on the concept of how do we get Gloomhaven to a mass market? Pretty much, like how do we get Gloomhaven into Target? Because like we're never going to be able to like put a Gloomhaven box on a Target shelf. It takes up too much space. It's way too intimidating. It's way too expensive. it's just not going to work.
Yeah, could you see the little red carts running around with Gloomhaven? Hey, mommy, what's this Connect for? Oh no, I want Gloomhaven Connect for, or what is it? The game in Target, Pop the Zit or something. Oh yeah, there you go. So you had to get it into Target, and you were like, okay, what do we need to do?
It's obviously like a complex system, and you can get very in depth with playing it, but I think it does have some like mass market appeal. Because I've seen, if you take away all the barriers of entry and you just sit down with somebody, I've sat down with people who've like never played games before, right? And I just give them like their hand of cards for a character, and just tell them, you play 2 cards each round. Do the top action one, the bottom action the other, and they can pick it up. Yeah, it was all about just like trying to figure out how to remove all those barriers of entry, so that a more casual mass market audience could pick it up and play it and get into it. Have that experience. And because like it also has like Gloomhaven has this presence like in the pop culture world at this point, right? Where like just random people that you wouldn't expect will tell you like, oh yeah, I've heard of Gloomhaven, I know what that is, or I've never played it, but like my boyfriend's obsessed with it or something like that. I think there was an opportunity to get a product like that into Target and have people walk by the shelves and see like, oh, Gloomhaven, I've heard of that, let me try that out.
What were some of the barriers you removed with Jaws of the Lion?
Sure, yeah. So as much as we could, right? So it's in a much smaller box. It's a $50 price point. So those are like 2 of the big barriers of entry into Gloomhaven. And then also there's a tutorial system. You open the box, there's a sheet right on top of the box. It tells you, okay, this is what you need to do. There's a lot of stuff in here, but I'm going to explain how you can sort it and where you should start learning the rules and all that. And so then there's a how to play guide that essentially runs you through like the first 5 scenarios of the game, sort of teaching you rules like little by little. So the first scenario you go into, it's very easy to set up. There's just like 1 monster type. There's just a couple of monsters on the board, and you've only got 6 cards in your hands, and they're all like very simple. And it's basically just like learning the mechanics of just like you play 2 cards, do the top one, bottom of the other. As you progress through those 5 scenarios, things get more complex. You learn more rules until by the end of the 5th scenario, like you're pretty much playing normal Gloomhaven. But it hasn't been intimidating to get into that. And I think the other main thing was the setup. That's partially due with like the giant Gloomhaven box, right? There's just a million different components. You punch it all out, and it's just like, okay, now what do? I've got tokens everywhere.
Oh, I know. Well, hold on. I know. You buy the broken token insert, which I have.
Oh, you've got the inserts, and you've got the game. You just need to do it, Tony.
I do. Every day I look at that box and I say, I got to do this. I've got to sit down with Donna.
You can play solo.
Yeah.
And that was my intent, but I keep hoping that someday we'll get to play it.
But anyway, so yeah, the setup of Jaws of the Lion is much simpler. And the main reason for that is that we've put the maps for each scenario within the scenario book. So you just open the scenario book up, and then there's your map. You don't need any additional tiles or anything else. You just play on the scenario book itself, and that reduces setup time hugely.
Before you move off this sheet, I want to talk about this because Isaac...
And those for you listening, the sheet he's holding up is the starter one.
I'm getting ready to tell you what it is. Hush.
I was waiting, but usually this is where you go into me and interrupt me, so I just want to make sure.
That's fair. That's fair. I have a copy of the game. And when you take the shrink off, the first thing that you're going to see on the very top is this sheet that Isaac you referred to called Welcome to Gloomhaven. And this first paragraph here says, now remember, imagine everybody that's listening who doesn't know anything about board games. They were going to go into Target. They were going to buy Connect 4. Their kids are like, I don't know what that is, but that looks pretty cool. Let's get this. The dad finally relents, or the mom finally relents. Okay, we're going to get it. They open it. It's number one, this box. How much does this box weigh? I know you have to know. It's crazy heavy.
The Jaws of the Lion? I don't remember off the top of my head. It's like 4 or 5 pounds, maybe.
It's ridiculous. It's $50. It weighs the same. It's the same price as like Ticket to Ride, but the comparisons are not even there with the amount of components in there. All right, so back to the sheet. The first paragraph says, and this will be anybody who's seen to open it. Stop. Read this before you do anything else. There are more components in this game box than you may be used to, and it's important to make sure they are organized before you start to play the game. This sheet will give you step-by-step instructions on how to easily organize your game box and where to go from there so that you can start playing as fast as possible. And this 2-page sheet literally walks through step-by-step of here are all the items in the box. You could take these, you move them off to the side. There's punch boards in here. You're going to punch these. You're going to take these zip bags. You're going to segregate these pieces into these pieces. You're going to put them into the bags. You have a plastic tray, and it shows you where to put the different punch-out tokens in that tray. You flip over, it says there's some other components in the box. There's character sheets. It walks through in-depth detail. And Isaac, I specifically tried to put on the hat of somebody who doesn't play a lot of games, and I walked through each sentence and did exactly what you said. And by the end, there's this watch it played logo about how to play the game. But let's skip that. Basically, the game is set up at that point. And then you go, well, now what do I do? The Learn to Play guide has 2 paragraphs on the front that says, welcome, this is what it is. We're going to start reading through this book. It says if you look for a yellow circle with an exclamation point, that means you have to do something. And between the Learn to Play guide, we'll have you jump back and forth between the scenario guide in this book that will teach you everything you need to know. We meticulously, when Tony and I played, I did not look at the rules at all. I said, guys, we're going to walk through this book as if we were playing this game for the first time and never played a board game. And dude, you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
You did exactly what needed to be done for the target audience. I am so amazed at how well you made the barrier so low to this game, man.
The target audience. I got that.
that was totally on accident, but I'll take it.
Well, yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that. A lot of work was put into that. So yeah, I really hope that helps people get into it. When Gloomhaven came out, I got a lot of people like telling me, oh, this reminds me of Hero Quest, right? And I have they tell me that they have fond memories of when they were a little kid. Their parents bought them Hero Quest, right, from the whatever store you went to back then. It probably wasn't Target. And just like kind of randomly, like their parents bought them this, and then it ended up like totally like shaping their whole like gaming lives. And yeah, I'm hoping that Jaws of the Lion can be like that for a new generation, right? Where maybe you just like randomly buy it on Target, and it becomes like this great experience that you get to have.
It's so funny how soon we forget Toys R Us.
Maybe that was it.
That's true.
But to Marty's point, the sheet, you're right. Setup is sometimes when you open the instruction book and you encounter a component page and you list out all these components, and then all of a sudden you encounter a setup page, and then, oh, now it's time to play, and yet you're flipping back and forth between all that. That can be very challenging at times. Why do I know it succeeded? Because Marty was able to easily get into the game. And that's a success right there.
And teach it correctly without any mistakes. And what I loved is at the end of the scenario, to say, okay, scenario 1's complete. It tells you what to do. And then it explains what to do with your characters. It's like, okay, great. You're going to take your character sheets. You're now playing an RPG. You're going to build out your character. There's going to be some upgrade cards that you're going to have. And at the very bottom, it says saving. Now, at this point, it tells you exactly there are boxes for each of the characters in the game, little tuck boxes, and it tells you what to put in each one of the boxes. And then you put them back in the little insert in the box, put the books back in, put the tokens in, close it up. Next time you're ready to play, you open it up, you jump to the next page of the Learning to Play guide for Scenario 2, and start walking right through it. And again, it tells you how to unpack it and reset the game to everybody picks their character again, and they keep on going. It is brilliant because the next scenario adds some additional actions, some additional things that are on the map that wasn't there before. And that happens with every single scenario. So like you said, Isaac, after scenario 5, you know everything you need to know. Enjoy your journey.
Right on.
Boom, there it is. Done. What did it take to get into Target?
I've been talking to PSI, which, oh gosh, I forget what PSI stands for. I could probably look it up. It's probably not important. Anyway, they're
pounds per square inch. You're a physics. You're a physics.
Oh, that's what it stands for. Anyway, they're sort of, I wouldn't call them like a distribution. I'm getting into like a topic I probably can't talk about intelligently, but anyway.
Welcome to Rolling Dice and Taking Names.
They're sort of a middleman between like Target and hobby board games. They don't only deal with Target. They also deal with hobby distribution, also like Barnes and Noble and stuff. But like they're one of the main ways that like hobby games have of getting into Target. And so I've been talking to them. Like I meet with them at Gen Con every year, like for the past few years, just to kind of like talk and see like, you know, if I had anything for them. But as I talked to them, you know, I was thinking about it more and more, and it's like, yeah, well, let's try and do this. So last year at Gen Con, I met with them and said, okay, well, this is what we have. You know, what do you think? And they got us a meeting with Target at Essen. And so, yeah, we had a meeting with one of the Target representatives in the middle of Essen, and it was like super crowded, and the woman who was looking at it like kept getting her chair bumped by the guy behind him, and she looked like super annoyed and like not very happy. And we're like, I don't know if this pitch went very well. But PSI, you know, could continue to like work on our behalf and talk to Target. And so it was like this strange process where, you know, we're just constantly getting like these updates from PSI about like how Target is feeling, and they think it'll work, but they need like this changed and this changed, and it just kind of like went back and forth through them until like we hammered out a deal. I don't know. I guess that's not very specific, but yeah, it was just like, I don't know. PSI did all the work, and I just made the game and made a few adjustments.
Okay, so this is my vision of it after what you just told me. Isaac walked into the room. He approached the executive sitting across from him. He drops Gloomhaven down and says, "This is the most successful board game out there, but I can bring this to you in a smaller, condensed version at a cheaper price that will outsell anything on the Walmart shelves. I think you need to do this." That's what happened, Marty.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did bring up our sales and, you know, our critical reception and all that, and I'm sure that was a deciding factor.
But it was in a secluded dark room and all these people sitting around in suits. Okay.
Are we going to do that? So a dark room, there's ashtrays sitting on the table. It's like a smoky room.
No. That had been in the 70s. Isaac's too young for this. There was kale chips. Okay.
Okay, my bad. different crowd. Okay. Is this a Target exclusive though?
No. So they do have a 1 month exclusivity. So pretty much through all of July, they will be the only ones selling it. But then in August, we'll be going into normal hobby distribution. So that's when people outside of the US will be able to get it.
Okay. Wouldn't it be interesting if it happens during one of their buy two, get one free sales at Target that they always run for board games? Could you imagine that? $49.99 for Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, pick up a ticket to ride for $49.99, and then bam, grab, Europe or something. You're set.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, we've been talking to them now about different promotions that they can do.
I was actually going to ask, once it gets on the shelves, is Target going to do any special marketing for this particular game, or are they just going to throw it on the shelf without any like, look at this, sort of deal? Blue light special. They used to have those at Kmart.
Yeah. So like during their 1 month exclusivity, it's going to be, I guess, like an end cap promotion. So it'll basically be like out in the aisles. So it'll be a lot more visible.
So my rate is very cheap. I'll be happy to go into Target and stand at the end cap for you and just point this out as people walk by. me. I'll make sure it can happen. We do that. We actually do. Marty and I will go into the stores and actually help people periodically.
Nice.
His rate is free. So there
Yeah.
you go. I would take
All
advantage
right. Well,
of
yeah, go do that. Sounds good.
that. Yeah, I didn't know if they were going to do like any set up demos where people can come in, check it out. But I guess they're just going to feature it prominently in the toy section or wherever it's if it's going to be. And I actually just checked, our sponsor Miniature Market already has it for pre-order on their site. So when that month is up, it should be starting to show up on online stores and in your game stores too. Anywhere that you buy games, it'll be available to them.
Yeah.
And to follow up to Tony's question, if you have Gloomhaven, why would somebody want to pick this game up?
Yeah, so it's a standalone campaign, it's a standalone game. There are 25 scenarios and 4 character classes. That is all entirely new content. So yeah, if you've never played Gloomhaven before, or just a casual gamer, like it's something that can get you into it and give you all that good story and all that good content. But if you're already familiar with Gloomhaven, you've already played through all of Gloomhaven, then it also just gives you that additional content. Like it's not dumbed down content, right? Like this is a normal Gloomhaven game. Like, the first 5 scenarios are a bit of a tutorial. Like if you really don't want to, you could probably like skip the first 3 scenarios that are kind of like mini scenarios and aren't quite the same. But then once you get into like the 4th and 5th scenario and everything beyond that, like it's you're playing normal Gloomhaven. So there's 22 scenarios of worth of content and 4 new character classes that you can play in Gloomhaven. You can play in Frosthaven. You can it's all cross compatible, so you can use those characters however you want, and they're really interesting characters. Like we try not to make them too complex, but they're still easily like. They're very interesting characters to play with, and like complexity level, like similar to like the starting characters in Gloomhaven.
But if you skip over those first scenarios, you're missing one of the best components: stickers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to use the stickers. That's important.
You know how there are certain parts of a game that kind of you go, ooh, that's cool. And we were sitting there with our friend playing, and we got to the sticker, and we put him in charge of putting the sticker on.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I got to put the sticker in B1 or B2, wherever it was going. And he goes, this doesn't work. Wait a minute. Oh, if I do, it covers it up perfectly. The artwork fits right on top of it. And then we did the next one. And he's like, oh, it fits right in there in that little square. And he was so excited about that. And I was like, look, give me that. I will see that. And I was like, this is amazing. That's just neat stuff. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that if you've played Gloomhaven, you know how to use stickers already. So I glossed over that part.
Wow, that was a shot.
So that brings up a good question for somebody who might be interested in this. And you talk about, wait a minute, you're putting stickers on the board. Is there replayability? If somebody goes through and plays 24 scenarios but wants to take it to a different group, can they play through it again?
Yeah. So, I mean, the board itself is not reusable. So you put the stickers on the board. And that's the board is there to like just keep track of like what scenarios you have available to you. And it's also just like more of a thematic thing to like give you more connection to the city and the different scenarios you're going into and like what that all looks like. So if you wanted to replay it, you basically just have to have some other way of keeping track of what scenarios are available, which is easily done with like a piece of paper and a pencil. It's not going to look as pretty, but yeah, that's the only thing that would inhibit your replayability.
But I mean, I know I have, and for my Gloomhaven, I bought the sticker book, so that came, to give it that replayability.
The removable stickers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't done that for Jaws of the Lion yet. We might. We're thinking about it. So yeah, it's not available currently.
We didn't even mention this. The 4 playable characters are beautiful miniatures.
Yes.
I don't know who did your sculpting, and I don't know how you hit that $50 price point with all that, but those are nice miniatures in that game.
Yeah, that's been another thing we've been working on is stepping up the quality of the miniatures. And so yeah, I'm really happy with how those turned out. Yeah, the sculptors Andrew Cotil, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and Chris Lewis were the sculptors for those. And yeah, they're really great.
Now, all the monsters, they are cardboard standees. That's fine. But your little character model is a white, non-painted miniature. And I mean, I was immediately looking at it going, ooh, I think I need to paint this bad boy. So if you're into miniature painting, you can do that. If not, that is totally okay too. But you do have a nice high quality miniature to use. Again, the value of this at $50, I don't know how you pulled it off, man. I know you kind of do your own thing. You do the design and the production and all that. But how you squeezed all that for $50 and can throw it on a Target shelf just blows me away.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we might have like slightly smaller profit margins than other companies. I don't know, but yeah, I mean it was a lot. But yeah, I'm really proud of the products, and I obviously like Target wanted to sell it for like $40, and that wasn't possible. So we had to $50 was as high as they would go.
He's a doctor of physics. He can bend time and space. He can make it happen, Marty. That's the way it is.
He can bend cost analysis spreadsheets. All right, so Isaac, after this is successful, which there hasn't been a project you touched yet that wasn't. Let's say Jaws of the Line does really well. Would you revisit doing this again? It's like putting a second box into Target.
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure like what that would be. Whether it'd be like a sequel to Jaws of the Lion or maybe like a Frosthaven version of Jaws of the Lion. But yeah, I think if it does well and people looking for more content like that. I mean, the other thing like is if you play Jaws of the Lion and you really like it, there's already like Gloomhaven that you can go play. Like you don't necessarily like need more content specifically like that. But yeah, maybe like another product that we could put in Target might be worth considering.
So a quick follow-up. At our strike tournament last year, you had some creature on your shoulder. And you can go into what that was. But I'm seeing here, if the success at Target, I'm also seeing plushies.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. So that was the Vermling Mind Thief, which we had some plushies made of just for as mascots for our booth. So yeah, now pretty much all the conventions we go to, we have Vermling Mind Thieves everywhere. And yeah, we've been looking into, mass producing those. The ones that we have are just like handmade by somebody with an Etsy store who like lives in California, and can't really be mass produced very easily. They're also very expensive. But yeah, we've sent some prototypes over to some factories. So like a dumbed down version of that would be cool. So like we're looking into it, but don't have any progress yet to talk about.
It sets the mood. You put it there near the game board. It's kind of like, I don't know, an RDTN squishy acorn. It helps you play.
I mean, Roots has plushies for all their different animals, and those are really cool. But yeah, like when anybody sees it at a convention, they're like, "Oh, I want to buy that," and it's like, "Well, you can't yet, but we're working on it."
You can't have that.
No.
I think what I ought to start doing is you need to start have like people cosplaying as Gloomhaven characters and stuff. I mean, there's a whole world here that you can get into and play in.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did that at PAX Unplugged. Had the banner spear from Frosthaven. That was really cool.
And we didn't mention this, we've also got a video game adaptation of Gloomhaven.
Oh, yeah.
It's currently on Steam. And if people want to go play that, they can do that too. So there's several ways to play the game, which I think is a good way if you want to see, hey, would I even be interested in this game? You can go invest a little bit of money in trying out the video game version. And if you like it, then you know that you have a cheaper version here at Target that you can check out before jumping into the full-blown either Gloomhaven or Frosthaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Marty, I can't sing enough praise about the map book. I mean, we talked a lot about, but just throwing that open and saying, here you go, detailed, very colorful artwork. There's just a lot here.
There's actually a supplemental scenario book that extends some of the maps. so that you have two books that you can put them together to make a larger map.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really good idea too. So that way you're not limited to just a map on 2 pages. You have a second book that you can use to extend the play area.
Yeah, I found just having one book was too limiting in the design process. I'm like, well, we'll just have another book and slap it onto the side or whatever. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with the artwork that we did. Each scenario is basically an entirely new piece of art. David Desmarais did all that for us, and it looks really great.
Well, Isaac, before you get out of here, I don't know if you realize this or not, but every time we have a first-time guest on our show, we invite them to play a little game with us, a game that we call Rank 'em. Before we get to our game show, let's hear some exciting things from our sponsors. First up, the Broken Token. If you have a copy of Gloomhaven, or you're getting Frosthaven, or you're thinking about getting Jaws of the Lion, then make sure to go check out all the Gloomhaven products they have at thebrokentoken.com. They have organizers, they have accessories that you can use. It's like dungeon components and special tokens. They have tuck boxes that you can have for all the cards. So many options for organizing your copy of Gloomhaven. To find out more, go to thebrokentoken.com. And if you want to go get a copy of Gloomhaven or maybe Jaws of the Lion in the upcoming months, go check out miniaturemarket.com, where they'll be also carrying the game there. Make sure to sign up to their newsletter where you can hear about their daily deals, and go and check their website every day to check out what new products are being released that day. To find out more, go to miniaturemarket.com. While many of us are trying to find more and more activities that they can do online, Portal Games has come to the rescue for us. They have just launched a Twitch channel at twitch.tv/portalgamesUS, where they're going to be doing regular content of streaming of games, showing some gameplay, talking to some of the people behind the scenes at Portal. And there's going to be a special PortalCon online, which is a live streaming English language event for all fans. They're going to stream live on the Portal Games YouTube channel July 10th through July 11th. There's going to be contests, gameplay sessions with designers, seminars, special guests, and more. Maybe even we may show up on there. Again, to find out more, you can go to portalgames.pl/en for the announcement for PortalCon online. Now back to our show. What we're going to be doing, Isaac, is we're going to give you a list of 3 items, and then what we would like you to do is rank those in any order that you would like, and then tell us why you rank them that way. Isaac, do you understand the rules of the game?
I think so. We'll see.
All right, Dr. Childres, here we go. Tony, why don't you give us your first question?
All right, so here we go. And then, of course, I think one thing, Marty has to rank them, and then I get to rank them as well. So for the first rank them, so bear with me, the first item is kind of long here. Alessandro Giuseppe Antonio Anastasio Volta, George Simon Ohm, or Gustav Robert Kirchhoff. Volta, Ohm, or Kirchhoff, those 3 physics guys.
Oh, okay. That's what I assumed. You were giving me like physics names or something.
I got it.
And they're electric. Didn't the man just tell us he's about electric stuff? Conductivity?
Kind of. I'll just rank those in alphabetical order, I guess.
And so you're saying you would go Kirchhoff, Ohm, and Volta. All right. Marty?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ohm I get. I guess Volta. Okay, so that's what various units of measurements were named after. I don't know. I didn't do a lot of like history of physics.
Oh, my bad. Bad one. My bad. I'm sorry about that.
All good.
Yeah, so my first one's going to be Kirchhoff, because I have many fond memories of doing Kirchhoff's equations and stuff in electrical engineering classes. And then I will go for Volta, who volts is named after, and then obviously ohms is ohm, which is a measurement of resistance. So there's my order: Kirchhoff, Volta, Ohm.
And I'm going to go Ohm for the Ohm's law, one of the first laws I learned for electrical engineering. Then Kirchhoff, and just like you said, for the equations, and then Volta. just because it took me forever to get his name out as we do it. So I changed it up there. It's the laws. So that is how I rank them. Marty, over to you.
Dang it. Well, you went with a physics theme one too. I kind of did, but mine's a lot simpler where everybody will understand this one. Here we go. Electron, neutron, proton.
All right. I guess we'll just order them by mass. So, well, proton and neutron have similar masses. I think neutrons are a little more massive. I should really know that. I'm going to be embarrassed if I'm wrong. But we'll go electron, proton, neutron.
So you went by mass. So electron being the lightest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was a good one. Nobody else would rank them by that. So kudos to that, Tony.
Oh, I'm just going to do it based on the atom. You know, you see the electron, and then you'll hit the proton, and then you'll see the neutron. That's how I see it, and that's how I'm doing it. And one's got a dance. Electron has was it the electron dance? It wasn't the proton dance. Anyway, electron, proton, neutron.
The neutron dance is what it was.
Oh.
Neutron dance, and Isaac can dance, so he could probably pull it off. I bet.
I do not know what the neutron dance is.
All right, so for me, I'm going to go by, I'm kind of a neutral guy. I like to keep balance, so I'm going to go neutron. And then I try to be positive in life. So then I'm going to then I'll go proton. And then I just try to avoid all negativity. So electron. And it's funny, I wanted to mention this to you, Isaac. Tony and I is going to go back to electrical engineering here. And we always heard this. So when you were studying physics and you were studying about current, what path did you say current flows? Is it flow from positive to negative or negative to positive?
Well, I mean, it's I guess negative to positive.
Yep. So in electrical engineering, I don't know if you know this or not, we always treat everything as current. Electrons flow negative to positive, but we treat current flowing positive to negative.
It's like the absence of electrons, or
it's called the holes.
Yeah.
We say, which direction do the holes move? The holes move the gaps left by the electrons from positive to negative. And basically that just keeps all the equations nice and straight. I just remember in electrical engineering, I don't know if you remember, Tony, it's like, look, physicists will tell you this is the direction that it goes, but for practical purposes, you're going to say it goes positive to negative.
Yeah. I vaguely remember that. The two different ways of measuring it.
I don't vaguely remember. I remember flunking a physics test because of that stuff.
Because you got the negative backwards, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
All it does is change the polarity is all it does.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. And by the way, the neutron dance was from Beverly Hills Cop from the Pointer Sisters.
Oh, that's right. It was a song in a movie. Thank you, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
There you go. All right. Well, those went off very well. Typical.
Bet your listeners didn't know they were getting a physics lecture today.
Isaac, people have turned off way before this. Don't worry about that.
Actually, no, they hung around because they were interested in what Isaac had to say, not what. Okay,
yeah,
moving on.
True.
So here's my next questions, and there's some history back here, but rank the following: E.T., Rambo, Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Which Rambo?
The first Rambo. First Blood.
Yeah,
First Blood. Okay,
sorry.
I'm going to rank those by the number of times I've seen them.
Oh, nice.
So I've never seen Wrath of Khan.
Oh, dude, that's actually one of the best ones.
Maybe I have, but it was like when I was a kid, and I don't really remember it. So I don't know.
I mean, you got the meme with
Captain Kirk.
I know the
going,
meme. Yeah. And I've seen First Blood once, and I've seen E.T. a bunch of times.
Okay, so there you go, from 0 to a bunch of times. Got it, Marty.
I'm going to go from. Oh gosh, I was going to say favorite to least favorite, but all those are good, Tony, and they're all good for different reasons.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go from the most bloody to the least bloody. So I'll go Rambo First Blood, Wrath of Khan, then E.T. There wasn't a lot of blood in E.T., was there? Except when Elliot was healed when he got hurt by E.T.
Yeah.
For me, it's going to be, if they're on TV, which one will make me stop sooner? And that would be Star Trek II, then comes First Blood, and then E.T. Now, the history behind this, Marty, is...
Yes.
All these movies came out in 1982. And Isaac, what's special about 1982?
Well, it was the year I was born.
Ta-da! Look, Isaac, we actually did a tad of research, just a little bit.
Well, I was curious. I was like, okay, I know, we're old, so let's just see how this fits in. I'm like, oh wow, when Isaac was born, these incredible movies. I mean, there's a bunch of them that's part of this, but E.T., of course, led it. But Gandhi won the Oscars.
There you go. Who played Gandhi?
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley. Very nice. All right. So for our final rankum, Isaac, I believe you are a vegetarian, correct?
Vegan. Yeah.
Vegan. You're a vegan. All right, here we go. We've never ranked vegetables before. So here we go. Squash, zucchini, cucumber.
Well, like zucchini is a kind of squash, isn't it?
Yes.
He got me on technicality.
All right, how about we'll say like butternut squash to get more specific. So butternut squash, zucchini.
Is that the yellow one?
Yeah. Well, It's kind of like it's more orange. Yeah, it's like orange.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't want to ruin your rankum.
No, it's over, Isaac. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. All right, there you go.
I don't know. Those are all like actually 3 really good vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy eating cucumbers raw.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will rank them in the order, like my preference, like how my favorite vegetables, just because, just so it'll be challenging. So I think, and cucumbers can also be pickles, which are also delicious.
Wow, we really stumped him with this
So
one.
we're going to go, but like, I like all of them. Just as a disclaimer, but we'll go zucchini as my least favorite of the 3, and then butternut squash, and then cucumber, but it's close. Butternut squash makes a great soup.
All right, so I'm going to rank these from versatility for me, and I'm going to go with the zucchini because I can chop it and fry it, and I can put it in a twirler, and it can become the base for spaghetti. Instead of spaghetti, have zucchini spaghetti noodles. So that's the reason why it's number 1. And then I will go with the cucumber because, as Isaac said, it's pickles. I can put it on salad. I can eat it raw with a little ranch dressing. It really brightens up a vegetable tray. Butternut squash, good, but I just don't have the uses for it. So zucchini, cucumber, butternut squash.
Well, here's the thing. Vegetables are good for you. That's why I'm going to rank them on how, when they're bad for you, how I like them. That's how they taste when they're fried. And if I take a cucumber and I pickle it, nothing's better than some fried pickles. Next is fried squash, which I love. I've never tried fried zucchini, but I would. So there's my order. Cucumber, butternut squash, zucchini.
Okay. Get some garbanzo bean flour, Marty. Throw some paprika in there, get a little, some pepper, toss it in the zucchini, fry it up in a light olive oil. Oh, so good.
Now that sounds good. Well, for the first time ever, we're trying to do a small garden in our backyard, and we planted some squash and cucumbers. So curious to see how that's going. Oh, a zucchini too. We actually have all 3 of those. So I'm curious to see how those will turn out for us. Do you do a garden there, Isaac?
No, I don't do any gardening. Okay, so wait, what squash did you plant? Was it like a yellow, like summer squash?
Yes, whatever it's called.
Now, hook neck squash.
I don't know. We just call it squash. And I just picture this. I picture this yellow vegetable in my head that I cut up and batter and
It's
fry.
almost like the same size as zucchini, but it's yellow. Maybe a little thinner on one end.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a bulb and thinner on one end. Yeah.
It's got little spines to it, so when you grab it and you're trying to pick it, it kind of hurts.
I mean, it's not as bad as okra, but yes.
No.
Picking okra is horrible.
Well, you see, you should have said if you were wanting to do fried okra, fried squash, fried cucumber.
Okay,
pig.
okay, it was a horrible question. I admit it. I screwed up. All right, it's rare for me to screw up and rank them, but it happened. It's the first time ever. I apologize to Isaac for totally ruining this segment.
No, it was great. We had a good discussion.
No, we started on a bad note with some physics, guys, and we ended on a flat squash note. Okay.
Flat squash.
Oh, Isaac, before we let you go, we do have to ask you one thing that we ask every guest on our show, and that is, so what kind of mower do you have, sir?
Oh, I do not know. I do own a lawn. Well, I don't own the lawnmower. So I rent the house that I live in. And so there is a lawnmower out in the garage that my landlord has provided that I use to mow the lawn. I could not tell you what brand of lawnmower it is. It's just, standard non-riding gas-powered push mower.
Case in point, people, 2 very successful Kickstarters, and the man still mows his grass. That's right.
Not very often, though. It gets a little embarrassing sometimes.
He doesn't have to mow his yard, but he still does. That's a guy who keeps it humble. The most successful board gaming Kickstarter in the history of Kickstarter, and the man will still go out there and walk behind a mower and mow his lawn.
But Isaac, I mean, when you do that, I bet you are sitting there doing scenarios, because nothing is as peaceful as a man with his mower with his thoughts.
Yeah, I get some thinking done. That's for sure.
Oh, Isaac, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. I have loved seeing your success. This guy kind of came out of nowhere from a few years back, released this game on Kickstarter. It's like, everybody wanted this game when it came out, and then you went from a really good first successful Kickstarter to relaunching it to a very successful Kickstarter. It was hard to find for a while, that first Gloomhaven. Frosthaven comes out, just blows away all records, and now for those people it's like, that's still too much of a game for me. It's like, well, fine. Walk into your local Target, drop $49.99 and get Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion and experience the same game that all these other gamers are playing right now. Amazing, man. Congrats so much for huge success.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks. I couldn't be happier with all the success that Gloomhaven has seen, and I say it a lot. I have the best job in the world. I get to just design games and be successful at it. So I'm very happy.
Wow. No, and we also thank you for taking the time out of your busy Gen Con schedule coming to the strike tournaments. Contact us and say, can I come to the Isaac? Just walk in. You didn't need to contact us. We just it's Isaac. Yeah, come on. We're so excited when you're there.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Isaac, I was really humbled a couple years ago when you emailed me and said, I didn't get a ticket. Can I still come? I thought that was really cool. It's like, heck yes, you can still come. So we love having you there as a guest. And before we let you go, if people want to follow you on Twitter or find out more about you and everything like that, how can they find you?
Sure. So we have a website, cephalofair.com. And then, I'm also pretty active on Twitter at Cephalofair. And then we also have a Facebook page, Cephalofair. It's all the same. You just got to figure out how to spell it. And we're relaunching our website pretty soon here with a web store. But in the meantime, also, if you are interested in Frosthaven, you can still pre-order that by going to the Frosthaven Kickstarter.
I didn't know it until today when I saw your website. Tell the story of the name of the company. I didn't realize this, and this is a good story.
Yeah, so it was just, it was just a username that I had. Maybe starting with BGG, Cephalofair, and I started using that name because I thought that it meant headless ghost, which I thought was just this cool, weird word, that a friend of mine had told me about, years and years ago. But I didn't realize that I had misheard him, or basically I didn't spell the word right. And the word he was talking about was cephalophore, which is PHORE instead of FAR or FAIR, which is how I spelled it. So basically this is just a made up word that kind of sounds like this word that I thought was cool, but I misspelled it. and now it's the name of my company.
I love that, man. That's a great story. I saw that. I said, "Oh, we got to tell the audience about that because that's cool."
And also, when you're there, be sure to check out Isaac's blog. Very good reading, not like the English I just used. Excellent writing. Marty said, "Well, you might want to be prepared for this interview, so go check out the website and things like that." And I went out there and started reading your blog, Isaac. Very open. This is how it is.
And I love looking at your top 10 games. I love seeing Gaia Project on there.
Oh, yeah.
So that's you and I have a lot of same taste in games. I think it's so interesting that a lot of these, Lisboa, Feast for Odin, etc., are like really good, strong Euros. And but you came out with a very thematic game.
Yeah.
But I see your love of Euros in that game. But I love how you have mixed a game that is a little more deterministic instead of everything being just set to a dice roll, but still has heavy theme. It's just really good.
And I saw Power Grid on that pile of them, and I thought that's why my ranking would be sweet.
Yes. Oh, I was just gonna apologize for ruining your rankum. I think that was all me, just not giving it the proper respect that it deserved.
Oh, no. It is quite all right, sir. And in fact, when I was asking my family about that, Adam or Vanessa, my wife said, you do realize both of those are squash. I went, oh. Well, they'll know.
Hey, he should go back and listen to our Klaus Tauber rankum. Isaac, trust us. The bar is, yeah, okay. But thank you so much for joining us. Marty, any final thoughts? Okay, he's shook me off. So yeah, we're out of here. So once again, thanks for listening to Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and be sure to check out all the other great content that is going on currently for Isaac's new game, Gloomhaven, Jaw of the Lion.
Jaws.
Did I miss the S? Did I drop that S?
There's an S in there, yeah. Is it an S?
Yeah, there's an S. Jaws of the Lion.
So are you going to take us out?
Was that not it? Okay.
You mean the one catchphrase we've said for 200 episodes?
Well, now's the time to change. You've got those 200 episodes behind you. You can start something new right now.
Oh, that's true. Just some awkward ending. What can we say, Isaac? What could be our new closing catchphrase? Putting him on the spot.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Stay grumpy.
Stay grumpy. Oh, Tony, that's not bad.
All right, so keep staying grumpy.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Jaws of the Lion is now available at your local Target, so go look for it now. And make sure to come back to our next episode where we have another interview with the special designer, Justin Gary, the designer of Ascension and the brand new minis game, Ascension Tactics. Plus, Tony and I actually got to play some games together. In 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another episode of Rolling Dice and... Wow. I forgot the name of the show. I'm nervous here, Tony. I'm nervous. Isaac's is with me. I'm nervous. Okay, here we go.